In this week's video, we visit a place I had been a little bit too scared to go, one that confused me and one that blew my mind. Let's go. Hello, welcome to Through Lucy's Lens, weekly videos where I go somewhere interesting and hopefully you will find them interesting too. If you've not come across me before, I'm Lucy, I'm a social historian and very nosy person. In my videos you will find a mix of history and general nosiness, so it would be lovely for you to come along too. So this week, an absolute bonanza of secret places that people either don't know about or they're only open on very special occasions. So we're going to be starting off at a factory that makes pieces for coffins. It's not morbid, I promise. And they made pieces for the coffins of royal family, famous dignitaries, and it also is the story of an amazing woman. We're then going to go and look at another small factory that made silver pieces in the jewellery quarter. And then I've got some surprises, one of which I have wanted to show you for ages. And today is the day I can actually get in there and show you how stunning this secret place is. So let's go. The first place we're visiting today is somewhere I've wanted to show you for ages. I think it's one of Birmingham's most fascinating and lesser known historical sites, and it's the Newman Brothers Coffin Works. Birmingham is well known for its industrial heritage. The Coffin Works offers a unique glimpse into the city's contribution to a really specialised industry, the production of coffin fittings. Something I suppose we don't think about very much, and honestly, I was a bit worried about this place being a bit morbid, but my worries were completely unfounded, so bear with me. I used to stand outside this building having a break when I worked next door at Mitchells and Butler's head office as a temp in the early 2000s. The factory then was derelict, and I used to peer into the gates wondering what on earth was made there, because I could still see the faint Coffin Works sign above the door. Located on Fleet Street in Birmingham's jewellery quarter, the factory remained a working business for over 100 years. It provided the fittings for many significant funerals, including that of Winston Churchill and more recently Princess Diana. The factory stopped trading in 1998, but has been preserved as a working museum thanks to the passion of the factory's last owner, Miss Joyce Green. Interestingly, the building was constructed on the footprint of a back-to-back courthouse slum dwelling. That dwelling was demolished for the factory to be built, and you know I love a back-to-back house, and you can really see the shape of the court as it was with the factory now built on top of it. So I wanted to share that little fact with you. The Newman Brothers Coffin Works was established in 1882 by two brothers, Alfred and Edwin Newman. Originally, the business produced general metal goods, but by the turn of the century, they specialised in coffin fittings, including handles, nameplates, crucifixes and shrouds. They quickly gained a reputation for the high quality of their products, which were often supplied to prestigious clients, including royalty. I feel I need to place the Newman Brothers within the context of the jewellery quarter, known for its high concentration of skilled craftsmen and manufacturers. By the late 19th century, Birmingham had earned the nickname the City of 1,000 Trades because it had a wide variety of specialist industrial industries. The Coffin Works was part of this industrial ecosystem, relying on the same skilled labour, craftsmanship and hard work by working class people alongside innovative machinery, and this made Birmingham the industrial powerhouse. What made Newman Brothers particularly fascinating to me is that while many of the factories in the area were focused on luxury goods like jewellery and silverware, this company catered to a completely different market. Their products were not about luxury for the living, but about dignity in death. Yet the level of craftsmanship that went into making coffin fittings was every bit as meticulous as any other high-end product from the jewellery quarter. For anybody interested in social history, this museum also provides a looking glass into the social anxieties of the Victorians and Edwardians of a good death. At its peak, the Newman Brothers factory was a bustling centre of activity. The production process was highly specialised, involving the use of dies and presses to shape metal into handles, plaques and other components. Workers used hand-operated machinery to stamp out designs. Polishers gave the fittings a great shine, and finally they were hand-assembled into the finished product. Men, women and children worked here in cramped, dirty conditions, working long shifts with none of today's health and safety. One of the things that really struck me is when I had a demonstration of the drop forge, it was so loud, and that was just one of them. So the thought of 5 or 6 of them going all day for 12 hours with no protection, I'm amazed anybody could hear by the time they got home. You can also enter the factory warehouse where thousands of original coffin fittings are displayed. These are all original and made right here in the factory. Travelling salespeople would carry bags of fittings to funeral directors and coffin makers to market the products made here all over the country. The museum really focuses on real people, and I found it a real eye-opener that there were people walking around with lovely leather bags filled with coffin pieces trying to sell them to the great and the good. The people here loved their jobs, and most of them stayed with the company for their entire life. While the factory usually produced fittings for everyday people, they were also known for providing high-end products for prestigious funerals. In fact, the fittings made here were used for the funerals of notable figures such as Joseph Chamberlain. This highlights the company's status as one of the top coffin furniture manufacturers in Britain and shows how seriously they took their craft. Royal funerals are planned decades in advance, usually at the time of ascension to the throne. And in the case of the funeral of Princess Diana, because her death was so shocking and untimely, it's probable that the coffin fittings purchased for Prince Philip were probably used on her coffin. We don't usually see fittings on royal coffins due to their covered nature, but you can see a Newman's brother coffin handle on the coffin of Sir Winston Churchill. It's highly likely that there's still coffin parts made here in storage, ready for use for some of the royal family today. The Newman double swing handle is a specific design associated with high-class coffins. These elegant polished metal handles are functional but also aesthetically pleasing, and they are the choice of the British royal family. Newmans also produced elaborate shrouds and linings, all made here on site. To be honest, I was really dreading going to this part of the factory. It really turned my stomach, the thought of the shrouds, but it actually turned out to be one of my favourite parts of the museum, with a perfectly preserved mid-century sewing workshop. Shroud making, something I had never thought about, is actually an art in itself, with intricate details and delicate fabrics designed to provide comfort and style even in death. The entire factory was a hive of activity with different rooms dedicated to specific stages of the production process. The shroud room is a really female space, and I felt that. The women here enjoyed their work and they were treated well by the company. It must be noted that Newmans had a reputation for treating their staff very well. A lady that worked at the factory used some of the shroud material for her wedding dress because she couldn't afford a fancy dress. On seeing her wedding photograph, the owner commented, "How did you afford such a beautiful fabric for your dress?" She looked sheepish and he replied, "Next time, just invite me to the wedding." It's a real family business. I loved hearing the stories about how the women who worked in the factory took their job with good humour. Maybe you were on a night out and somebody asked you what you were doing. You didn't want to tell people that you made shrouds for a living, because even as late as the 1960s, superstitions ran high. So the ladies said they used to make dresses to die for. And that really made me laugh, because there's one thing Brummies are really good at, and that is turning humour from a bad situation. So good on you girls, that really tickled me. In 1998, when Newman Brothers ceased trading, the future of the factory was really uncertain. The owner at the time, Miss Joyce Green, was determined the factory should be saved and turned into a museum, and worked hard with local heritage groups to make it happen. She'd worked at the factory from the age of 18 when she joined the company in 1949 as a secretary. She worked her way all the way to the top to become a managing director in the 1970s. She was so passionate about the factory she called home, but she sadly passed away several months before her dream of seeing the factory as a museum came true. After extensive restoration work, the factory reopened as a museum in 2014. Today, I think this museum offers a really unique experience. The building has been meticulously preserved, and it just feels like a time capsule, an industrial time capsule. I really enjoyed my visit here. I'll be honest, I've had to experience quite a lot of death in my young life, and honest, I was a little bit frightened to go there, but actually I don't know what I was worried about because it's amazing. And the museum offered me a unique opportunity to step back in time and see how a Victorian factory operated, preserving not only the building, but the memory of a trade that is really overlooked. Okay, let's move on to our next hidden space, J.E. Evans Silver Factory. This place is a true hidden gem. It's hardly ever open to the public, opening only once a week for a few hours, either on a Friday or a Saturday. It's by guided tour only, and it's currently owned by English Heritage. I stalked the Birmingham Heritage Week website to make sure I could get in here to show you. It's a true time capsule, and I felt as if one day everyone just downed tools, walked out, and still it remains. It is one of the most complete examples of a factory you can visit. There's no fancy signage, display cases, or audio guides. It just is, and bravo to that. The J.E. Evans Silver Factory was founded in 1881 by John Edward Evans. From the surname, as you can imagine, he has his heart in Wales. It's in the heart of Birmingham's jewellery quarter, and the factory specialised in the production of high-quality silverware, including items like tea sets, trophies, cutlery and other decorative pieces that would be sold on to retailers such as Mappin and Webb and H. Samuel. As with many businesses in the jewellery quarter, it's a true backyard business, with 4 houses being knocked together and every part of the houses and gardens being used for industry. No planning permission? No problem, right? During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Birmingham was one of the world's leading producers of silver goods, and this was largely due to its centralised location and access to amazing skilled craftspeople. Mr. Evans, who had studied at the Birmingham School of Art, took advantage of this environment to produce beautiful, intricately designed silverware that was exported across Britain and the world. I'm going to be really honest with you, I found this space hard to get my head around. I didn't really understand the processes as they were so intricate, and I'm sorry to say, not very well explained. The tour was really busy and I couldn't really hear what was being said. But what I did take away was the environment, dirty, full of metal shavings and hard. It must have been hot, cramped and blinking rough to work here. I loved seeing the years of wallpaper and peeling paint, ghosts of gaslighting and rough, uneven floors that on closer inspection looked like brick but were made from wood. So if a heavy item hit the floor, it would bounce rather than smash. I took away a real sense of entrepreneurial spirit and dogged determination to grow the brand from a small home-based workshop to the large factory it became in the same space. So I did my best to decipher the processes for you. The process began with the shaping of raw metal, which was often done through casting, hammering or pressing. Next, the metal would be worked on by engravers who added intricate patterns and decorations by hand. The metal would be dipped and fired. Polishing was also another essential step, ensuring that each piece had a mirror-like finish before being shipped out to its new owners. The Evanses were good employers and cared for their staff, some of whom were as young as 10 years old. The young boys would do one of the most dangerous jobs, running the molten liquid metal across uneven factory floors to the men working the casts. And I really loved seeing photographs taken by the owners of the staff because, you know me, people are what make a place. The family owned the factory until 2008, when it was passed by the family to English Heritage. The factory site was opened to the public in 2011 following an intensive conservation project to repair the building fabric. They repaired things like the roofs, gutters, windows, but they didn't touch anything inside, meaning that the entire collection remained protected in situ where it's still viewable today. An amazing time capsule indeed. The last place on our trip today is here, the Serbian Orthodox Church of the Holy Prince Lazar in Bournville, Birmingham. You are not going to believe this is in the UK. It's the first purpose-built Serbian church in the UK and was built and maintained by exile Serbs and their supporters in England. In 1947 and 1948, many Serb exiles from former Yugoslavia were sent from displaced persons camps in Germany to work in essential industries in the UK. Many of these people moved to larger industrial cities such as Birmingham for work, so communities such as this one here in Bournville were formed. Initially, religious services were formed in small houses locally, but as the congregation grew, there was a need for a larger, more formal place of worship in the community. The foundation stone was laid in 1965 and the church was consecrated in 1968. The breathtaking artwork inside is in the 14th century Byzantine style and was completed by one man over a 10-year period. A Serbian artist called Dusan Mihailovic copied frescoes from the oldest monasteries in Kosovo and brought them right here. Before I leave you to enjoy the beauty of the church, I want to read you this off the church's website. Lazarica is evidence and a reminder of the strength and power of faith. Those who came to the UK after the Second World War, who lost all their earthly possessions, their friends, family, their homeland and their youth. This church is their legacy. That church blew my mind. I'm not religious, but I am an empath and I do take things in and I find a lot of emotion in places and they move me, and I haven't been moved by a building like that for a long time. So if that place is ever open and you're interested in magnificent buildings, things that you just cannot believe are there, you really have to try and make the time to get there, because that's beautiful. I'm going to end this video here. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a mishmash. My videos are always a mishmash. That's what I like to do. That's how my brain works. I do one thing and then the other. But as always, I'm really happy for you to be here. I read all your comments. So Linda, Dan, Joanne. Oh, there's so many of you. I mean, I could just list off names because you're all so kind in the comments. And I had a big long list of names in my head to read out, but because of that blow my mind, they've all gone out my head. But you are all in here with me, so thank you so much for coming with me. Until next week we're going to another really special place that I love very much. So I'll see you next Sunday, but hope you enjoyed that video. I look forward to hearing from you, and have a good week. Bye.